Hey, good afternoon, everybody. We are here to talk about website calendars and a few different options for calendars. I'm going to give a very high level overview. There may be options that I am not aware of. So if you have one that you are curious about or know about and want us to look into, we can do that at the end. But for now, I'm going to stick to two different types of, I think everything is going to come in two different flavors of calendars, and we're going to cover them in that order. We're going to talk about calendars as plugins, and we're going to talk about calendars as code. And we'll do a very brief discussion of what plugin versus code is as a review. And then we'll look at Tockify, as for plugins, Tockify, the events calendar and the events calendar pro, and then the all-in-one events calendar by Timely. And then we'll start talking about code calendars. And the calendars as code, I'm going to talk about Google Calendar because that's the one that I'm actually using. I know there are some libraries out there that use iCal as a code embedded calendar. I just cannot remember who you are right now. So if that is you, again, I'm looking for iCal calendar examples or another embedded calendar, but we'll look at Google because that's the one I can show you the most easily. So I've set up a couple of examples on the librarieswin.org training website. And so we're going to begin today with what is probably the most popular calendar across the board, and that is Tockify. When we talk about using calendars, the one thing that you must realize is that when you do a calendar for the except with, well, I'm going to back this up. Many calendars you update at an independent website somewhere else, and then it is reflected onto your website. A few of these, two of these that we'll look at today as far as plugins, you update directly on your website. But for the most part, most calendars that are going to be out there, especially if they're embedded with code, are going to be calendars that don't use a plugin and that they do get updated elsewhere. Tockify is our kind of our weird middle child where it is both a plugin and a code embedded calendar. So we're going to look at that one first. Tockify is used on at least 48 websites across the 100 and, well, we're up to 80, about half the websites, at about 85 websites. We're going to be up to 104 soon, but we've got some different things going on with those other ones. So Tockify is embedded in your website. And if you don't remember what a plugin is, there is a training post on that. A plugin is a tool that is used to enhance features on your website. And Tockify is installed on your websites through this Tockify Events Calendar plugin. So if you need a review of how to add a plugin to your website, that is available on our training website. I'll go ahead and throw that into chat real quick for you. I'll just search for plugin. A popular topic today. We've got more people coming in. So what a website plugin is. And find our chat here. So you can review on your own time what a website plugin is. But we're going to jump ahead. If you needed to add Tockify or any of these other plugins, you would come up here to add new plugin, you would install the plugin, and you would activate it. Tockify then has some settings in that left-hand menu, the black dashboard menu, and it gives you just a little bit of information here as far as some settings, but the vast majority of your work on Tockify is going to be done on the Tockify website and then getting the code to embed. And there is a training document on that. To use Tockify, you have to go to tockify.com and create a separate account. On that, you will create an account for your library, and then you will add events to here. You have a couple of different options as far as what the view is, agenda, monthly. Notice that this one's a little bare, so it hasn't been updated yet. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new event for website off the office hour. And I'm not going to go and give it a date, but we're going to say it's actually today at 1 p.m. and all day. Subscription, in order to have a repeating event on Tockify, you have to have a subscription. And to add additional dates, like if it's an event series, then you need to have that. So it will only show the featured image. There's a lot of limitations when you have the free version, but I'm only having working with the free version here, but this will tell you very cleanly what things. So we're going to do website office hour on the calendar. Website calendars. Save the changes. And I can come back to view my calendar. And now it's added this event for today, and it has next week's event. Don't have anything special on that at this point. No descriptions. You can view it as a monthly calendar or as an agenda and as a pin board, although mine doesn't look very exciting because I'm using the same image for everything. So if I want to see this on my website, if you don't already have it added to your website, you would click on this green button here. It is going to give you it'll going to give you the code for the full calendar or the code for the mini calendar. And you can also use WordPress shortcode. There's, if you need instructions on embedding, we can come back to our website. And this is a high-level overview today. We're not going into details on how to do any of this fun stuff and setting it up. Just wanted you to see how this is. Yeah, the subscription is really worth the money on Tockify. And unfortunately, I think you're going to find that for a lot of these, you're going to find in general that the subscription, that some of these very basic features that you really want to have are only available in the subscription or the paid models. So that's just part of life. But if you want to review how to embed it onto your website, here is the embedding code instructions, and it does talk about Tockify specifically. And so then when I come back to my website training, I have the training calendar Tockify here as an example. And I have it listed right now as the mini calendar. And I have the website training, website office hour as the full agenda. Or, yeah, I think with the free version, that's basically all I get is the option to have this as the agenda list. And so that's the Tockify calendar, which most of you are probably familiar with. If you don't have it on your library website, you have probably either encountered it on another library website or at least have heard it talked about pretty extensively. A couple other things with Tockify, just so that you know. There's a really good way to do some tagging and and with the images, you can put in online event, you can add a link, you can actually have, you can do an RSVP form and some other things. Some of this is paid and some of this is free. So that is Tockify. I next want to talk about another plugin. So we're going to move on to the one that's popping up here. We're going to talk about the events calendar as a plugin. And this one is different in the sense that it is going to feel a lot more like WordPress. It essentially mimics the WordPress interface. So again, this is a plugin. You would go to plugins, you would add new plugin, and this is called the events calendar. There's about 6 websites that are using this across our 85, but I think only 3 of them are actively using events calendar. There's some things about it that look really nice. There's some things about it that apparently are, or that are obviously quite clunky. And just so you know, it also comes with an Events Calendar Pro setting. And so this is similar if you want to do things like at reoccurring events or some of those other feature things, you need to have the paid version of the Events Calendar. So once you install it as a plugin, it does come up here, and now you have your editing menu here. You have a few setup options. You've got under settings, you can change what you want your slug. Remember, a slug is that last part of the permalink. If you want it to be calendar, if you want it to be events, or if you want it to be something completely different, you can change what that slug piece is. There's a couple other pieces. You can move events to trash after so many days. You can use the block editor, but you probably want to use the WordPress editor. So what I mean by this having a WordPress interface is this is what it looks like when you go to create an event. Is this looks like posts. This looks like what you are very familiar with if you are ever in your website creating your informational posts. So in this sense, this looks very much like something you would be understanding how to use and what's familiar with it. You see the title, you see the author, you see a category, you see start and end dates for your event. When you click add new, you add a title in the same way. So if we do website, office hour calendar, let's see. And then I'm actually just going to go and pull from today's. I already have this here, so I'm just going to copy and paste my description. Oops. And then I would set my event start and end time, a date and time. So today is 1 p.m. to how flexible this is. You can set an all-day event. You can add venues. You can add organizers. You can add your event website if you have a separate one. There is some cost options in here. We'll talk about categories in a second. You can create event categories. And so I'm going to go to website office hour. And I'm going to add that as a new category. So now every time it will pop up as an option. You can create some tags in order to search, like, so for easy searching. And you can set a featured image. And I'm going to go ahead and throw on a featured image here. Oops, not changing logo. I want logo. And I'll just put that on as my featured image. So again, this feels very similar. This one, you update all of your events on your website. It feels very similar to doing posts. And you can, just like that before, you can update your slug and your other things. So if you are very, very comfortable doing posts on your website, this is going to feel very similar to that. When I publish my event, this is where it gets a little weird. You have to do some setup on your website to get it there. I'm going to flip over to the Monaco Public Library that uses this heavily. So obviously they have a lot of events in here. And this is what it looks like on their website. So similar to the Tockify calendar, this is the free version of the events calendar, so it doesn't have reoccurring, but they do get the calendar view. And they basically have, you can find and you can search for events. So if I want to do they've got their Wiggle and Giggle class, I can search for and find all of their Wiggle and Giggle and Shake classes. There's an option to subscribe to the calendar. You can go by agenda view or calendar view, and you can jump ahead. And if I want to clear that out, find all events. And so they see that you have all of the events for upcoming and past previous months, upcoming months. I don't know if this, I can't tell you if it saves old events for a certain period of time and then deletes them or not, but that's what it looks like on here. Mercer Public Library uses the full pro version, so they have some of the additional features. But these are there's only about 4 libraries that are actually actively using the events calendar plugin, but it is an option. Oh yeah, so the pro version with this one, if you want to see, it's $99 for a year, and what you get with it for one site, and you would get additional calendar views, recurring events, some additional add-ons, and custom fields to work with. Oh, one other thing I do want to show you with the event calendar is when you create your event categories, it is possible, or it is also another thing, I can create another one where it's like just website training and add that as a new event category. And then I can make these, you can use this. This is, again, very similar to the posts features and the WordPress, your categories and everything. You have your quick edit, you have your edit options. And I can make website 201 as a child category for website training. And now it's going to organize mine as in those different layers. Oh, thank you, Ben. The event calendar also makes good quality structured data for events, so Google can scrape and find them easily. So the SEO, the search engine optimization is pretty high with the events calendar, according to Ben. MCPL, of course, you guys are the other ones using it. And I saw Ben, that's why. So MCPL uses it, Minaqua, Mercer, and one other. Okay, you're still testing. Okay, cool. So then we will go on to next one on my list. There's only 2 websites that have this one installed. And oops, and that's not even what I'm looking for. Cadot, there we go. Where's Cadot? Cadot has the all-in-one event calendar by Timely. I haven't had a chance to play with this one myself to get much more, but it does something very similar to what the events calendar does. It is a plugin. It is installed as a plugin and you would add a new plugin. And then you have this. So to compare and contrast, the events puts a little calendar piece on your dashboard. What this events one does is just use the same thumbtack pin that you get for posts, and then it pops out with your options here. So this is very, very similar to the events calendar. I'm kind of guessing this might be kind of like Fleet Farm and Blaine's Farm and Fleet. It's going to look similar, but it's 2 different companies. Again, you have your list of posts, but they are events. And then you can add some ticketing and some other pieces to that. So if I click on the Lunch and Learn and let that load. Loading, loading, loading. There we go. So if you are comfortable with your posts, you are back to having a very familiar interface here. This has it a little bit different, where your event date and time is right up top. Your event location details pops up in a toggle box, event cost and tickets if you have a ticketing, and if you have contact for your organizer. Then just like a post, you can put your information in here. You can also use the Divi Builder as you could with posts, and we're not doing that yet. Then you have a featured image option, and you have your categories options and your status. So if you're familiar, if you're very comfortable with making posts on your website, then the events calendar, and which I really should be doing this. So we talked about, so Tockify was our first one. The events calendar is our second one, and there's a pro version of that. And then this is the all-in-one events calendar by Timely. It's the one we are currently looking at. It's going to look very similar. There's some calendar themes and some theme options that you can work with that might be different. And some of these may also wind up being, so there's some other options for what your calendar could look like on here. And this is what it looks like on the website. There may be, I haven't even gotten as far because there's only one library, two libraries may be currently using this one. I'm not even sure if the other library is actively using this. I haven't dug very deeply into this, but it seems pretty functional. Seems pretty nice. If you are using categories and everything, you can do some good sorting and some other tools like that. So again, those are our website calendar plugins that we would do by plugin. So now I'm going to talk about websites that are hosted by code, or website calendars that are hosted by code. And specifically, I am going to use the Google Calendar as my example for this. iCal works similarly. There's a couple other ones, but for Google Calendar, if you are already using Google Calendar in your organization, this is one of those times where it might just be more convenient to use the Google Calendar on your website. Google Calendar has an interface that many people are familiar with different things you can turn on and turn off different calendar views. What you are going to do is create a specific calendar. It could be a calendar for programming. You could also do multiple embedded calendars on your website. This one is the one that has the website training on it. So we have our monthly view here. I'm going to go right to the front page of the training site. And this is where I have embedded the Google Calendar on the training website. And if I enable the visual builder, what I had to do inside Google Calendar was ask it to give me the code. I'm going to let it load. And again, if you have questions about code, you need review the embedding training link that I had. What Google will give you, what the Google Calendar or iCal Calendar will give you is the iframe code, which is very similar to actually to what Tockify. Tockify will give you the option between this iframe. It's a div code in this case, but div and iframe are basically, for our purposes, the same thing. So Tockify gives you that. This is the short code version of the same thing. This is the HTML code. You need to get the HTML code for the Google Calendar, and then you paste it into a code module. So a reminder that, let's go back and we'll edit the page on the back end. So when we're working in the Divi builder, loading. Okay, you have all of your module blocks, and the black boxes are the ones. This code module is my training calendar. So I'm going to actually say, I'm going to name this one Google Calendar. And so this is a code module. And when I open it up, it is going to give me the code box. I can even demonstrate how I would add another one. I could add, let's do, for the fun of it, let's add, alphabetical code, and I will copy the Tockify mini calendar code. Maybe. I don't know if I got that or not. I'll find out. Oops. Nope, did not. Keeps popping away from me. put it in the wrong spot. And I'm going to call this one Tockify Mini. And let's see what this looks like on the page. So now I have my two different ones. I have my Tockify mini calendar and I have my Google Calendar. The Google Calendar is coming up in an agenda view so that I can see the list of the names. I could also have it come up in a week view or in a month view. One of the other plugins that is being used out in the wilderness, but only one library is actually using it, and that is a simple calendar plugin. I have not played with this yet because I only just discovered it, and only one library is using this. It is a plugin that allows for a cleaner, neater interface for a Google Calendar. So it's basically a way of displaying your Google Calendar in a slightly fancier interface rather than the standard, very Google-ish, kind of almost outdated, early 2010s looking calendar now. So if you want to dress up your Google Calendar, there is the option of deploying the Simple Calendar plugin. So that's what I have for calendars today. A quick review is that we covered plug-in calendars, which is specifically the Tockify calendar, where you create a calendar out on the web in Tockify and you copy the code onto your website. The two events calendars, which you create a WordPress style post to add to your website, but it's and it feeds into a calendar on your website, or a calendar that is embedded, such as the Google Calendar, and then you can either dress it up with this simple calendar look or just add the code for the standard Google Calendar look. Any questions on all of that, or anybody have other calendars that you have discovered or want to try? Okay, Brandy uses. Chippewa Falls uses this for meeting room reservations to keep info hidden. Oh, this could be really handy. Seems to work best. Let's see. So what are you using? We'll take a look at Chippewa Falls here. And Brandy, if you want to talk, you're more than welcome to pop in and add that. Oh, so you are using, if I am correct here, is this the, oh, come on, what's the word? The contact form?
Yeah, yep, we use that. And then, so they send it, the contact, and like the request, and then we approve it. So then we have a separate account. And then below that shows the calendars. But the biggest thing we run into all the time is there's so many of us that have access to that calendar, it gets double booked so many times. And we don't know what to do because then it's awkward and we're trying to fix it. So we're like, please come up to the CERT computer and check that it's actually booked or not. Like, I don't know what's falling between the cracks, but.
No. Okay, meeting room reservations. Yes, I am just going to put it out there and say this is a nightmare for almost every library I know of. I'm also going to say, depending on the size of your library, so Chippewa Falls being on the large end of libraries, and then smaller ones where there aren't enough staff to keep track of some of the things. There are some paid options out there, and I know some people, I know of a couple libraries who are going around and around and around, and Ben in MCPL, you might even have something to pop in with some commentary on this. There are some custom things, and I'm not going to think of them off the top of my head because I didn't come into today, but I know I saw one at WLA that people were looking into. They are very expensive. But they try to integrate calendars and meeting room reservations and event marketing, and they're kind of doing this. These are businesses that are doing this all in one sort of management marketing and room reservation and event management sort of um, programs. They're their own programs, and some of them integrate with WordPress. Some of them integrate with Divi better than others. They're very expensive, and from what I have found from the people who are looking into these, they they all seem to have their downsides. So in your case, Brandy, you're running into, well, everything gets double booked because nobody's looking at the one calendar to rule them all, because there isn't really a one calendar to rule them all. Or people don't really know how to use the calendar because they're not that super comfortable with it. Or somebody knows about something, but they don't have access to it. Um, I don't know that there's a lot of solutions out there, that, especially those that are cost effective, that take away a lot of those barriers. And
Okay, yeah, that's what I was worried about. Because I've tried to look into some and they're so expensive. I'm like, for the maybe once a month this happens, I don't want to spend all that money. Like, I
yeah,
know our budget doesn't have that. So I've just trying to been like, work, go slow, take your time. If you don't want to enter it, give it to someone else, they'll enter it, kind of thing. But
no, I think this though is a slick little setup. So you do use the plugin, and for a contact form. Where does this end up going to? Where's whose email
um,
receives
the
that?
circulation email that
Okay.
also has access to that calendar. And then I sent the links for everyone that works in the building to have access to that calendar so they can all see it. But sometimes it's almost like there's a lag between when we take something off and when they see it.
Oh,
It's not like as fast. So sometimes now they'll come up and be like, okay, I just booked a room. I want to make sure it looks the same on your computer as it does on mine.
is it showing up?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Well, there's an awareness there then. But ouch,
So
yes.
Erica,
Yeah.
this is Chris at TB Scott. So I wanted to let you guys know. So we use Google Calendar. So we use a
Hmm.
couple of different things here. We do Google Calendar for if you go to our book a room page, we actually have our different rooms are all in Google Calendar. And so each room has its own calendar, and that allows us to put in the individual calendars for each room so you can actually look at what rooms are booked and on which days, and that way you can go through, they can pick which one, and it all goes through Google Calendar and Google Forms.
Okay. And so it comes
By
like a,
doing that, it allows us to and we also have it set to where the Google form only goes to like 3 emails. And
okay.
so the odds of those 3 people being out of the office all at one time are pretty slim. And then that way, pretty much like it mainly comes to my email. And then if I'm out of the office, if I'm ill or on vacation or whatever, then there's a backup person. And then if something's going on with that person, there's another backup person. And that's the only people who enter anything. So that way there's really not this chance for double booking things. Um, so that's we use, and we also have when going back to Tockify,
Hmm.
we actually have our Google Calendar, the event calendar that we created in Google Calendar
Hmm.
is
Okay.
synced to Tockify so that we don't enter our events or programs and things in Tockify. The only thing we actually
Okay.
ever go to Tockify for is to change the image that shows up because Tockify has the images. Everything else goes through Google, so that way you pretty much put in your description, your time frame, everything in Google Calendar, and then it automatically puts it in Tockify.
That's right. I do remember there was some way. Is that a paid piece to have?
Probably,
Okay.
yeah, because when you're logged in, all you do is you go to settings, and there's
Hmm.
a spot for calendars, and you basically sync your Google Calendar.
Okay. So, and that would be, I have heard of that, and then I Google Sync settings. Okay. But that may be a paid option, which is why
It
I have to
probably
do it.
is.
Okay. But yeah, that would be good. So, Chris, my question for you, because I noticed the difference between yours and Brandy's then. Um, so this form
Hmm.
goes to people's emails, and then they manually enter it into Google
Correct.
Calendar. So that way, if
Yeah.
there's a private event, or you don't like, the difference with the Chippewa Falls is that you notice it's just marked as busy. So you don't have like the individual, like if it's a library event, that might be one thing, but if it's a person reviewing or reserving a study room, um, that you have the ability to keep that private, correct?
Right, we can change what shows up on the calendar. So like when it is a staff thing where it's just the staff are gonna use it that day, it's just listed as staff use. If it's, and we pretty much have it, the form set up to where you're supposed to give us your company name, and then we put that company name in as that's what the event title is, so that that's what shows up. But like when we ask other questions like what's it about? How many people are there? There's a spot for in Google for you to put all that information. We don't really do that. That's more just for our information. So we don't add all of that because you could put it in and it would be under the description then.
But then it shows up.
Right, but we don't do that. Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
And so I think that was another barrier I found with a few people where they're like, yeah, we can put the title in there, but then all of that other information still needs to be stored somewhere else because
Right.
it would be on that. Yeah.
Right, and we print off, so we end up getting, it comes in obviously through the form, ends up sending it to a Google Sheets document, and then you go into Google Sheets and we have it set up to where we basically copy the information, transpose it so it looks nicer, then we print that sheet off, and then that way I have a hard copy of it. So every month, at the end of the month or at the beginning of the next month, when I go to do statistics, I always go through and I mark off, okay, did this event happen? Did they show up or not? Sometimes I've got to go back to the person because it always has them enter an email.
Yeah.
But and ask them, hey, did you actually use the room this day? Because nobody wrote it down. But we've gotten better and better at, no matter what, we pretty much come in that day, see if there's something going on in the room on our level, because the community room is downstairs. So the people at circulation kind of log that stuff.
Okay.
The stuff in the boardroom and the genealogy room and the assembling Menke room, that's all on third floor. So that's AREF. And but yeah, we just kind of, everybody has their area that they're kind of in charge of, and then they're writing it down so that way I can then go back and basically confirm, okay, yes, this happened. Okay, this is how many people actually were there, all that kind of stuff.
Good. So you get some good statistics out of that. Good.
Mhm.
Excellent. Ben says that at Marathon County, they're transitioning out of that custom coded booking form, so they're looking for some options. Yes, there are some booking features built into Office 365. I have not heard much about that. I know they exist. I don't know if they end up, because of the permissions within 365. I don't know. That's something that if you guys explore that, I'm more than happy to learn about it. But I know that the permissions within Office can get very complicated very quickly, it seems like. So so Merrill has kind of their own, this is going to take some setup as far as TV Scott's, taking a Google form, which you could also do through something like the meeting room reservation form using the contact form that is native in Divi, and then having that sent to a location where a central receiver. I think the downside to the meeting room reservation form, or to the Chippewa Falls using the contact form, is I think it can only go to one email, if I'm remembering on the Divi module correctly. And it might be easier to get multiples from a Google form, but then having individuals update a calendar. And in this case, Merrill has used multiple Google calendars and having them embedded in multiple different sliders. And then something similar where we've got, where in Chippewa Falls has the two different calendars displaying here so that you can see which ones and where they are. How you manage the privacy settings and the communications on who is actively using the room versus what gets displayed on your website. Again, a lot of this I think can be managed, but it takes a lot of staff training. And the trade-off is yes, there are some very large events management and room management programs out there that are specific, and some of them are very specific to libraries. They are very expensive. They may make it a little more manageable for staff because it's more built that way. It's the staff training time versus the expense of one of the very large or expensive management software solutions is an eternal balancing act for a library. Cool. Other thoughts or questions? And if we do ever want to go down the path of what are the big options out there, like for some of you who do have multiple rooms and need to manage multiple events and multiple, there may be an opportunity to put something together, maybe across a few more systems, to look at some of those larger options and see if anybody's using ones that work for them. I know that they get intimidating really fast, but some of them have it where it's really nice, where you can scan a QR code. An individual can scan a QR code and place a reservation. They're neat, they're seamless, they're integrated, but they are very expensive and very large. So it's not going to be the 1 to 5 person library solution, probably. Other thoughts or questions on that? This is really good. I appreciate the interest. Hey. Well, keep those questions coming. If you leave this training and you have ideas or you encounter something out in the wild, please send it my way. We can always keep our ears open for new plugins or other options or solutions. If you want help playing around with one of these other ones, if you're finding that Tockify just isn't doing it for you for some reason and you want to try one of the other calendar plugins because you're very comfortable with posts, we can look at transitioning you if you need some help with that. The other thing I can do is if you are interested and you want to know a library, like in the case of Minocqua is using the events calendar plugin right now. Kedot is using the one by Timely. If you want to know which libraries are using certain tools, I can help connect you with those and you can talk to amongst yourselves and see if it's a solution that might work for you. Hey, thank you everybody for coming today. I will go ahead and stop the recording and we'll share a little bit more. But just a reminder, we have a training next week. We are going to talk about Matomo statistics. Everybody's website should have gotten updated with the new Connect Matomo plugin, and we're going to talk about the statistics that are available through that. So stay tuned. Come back next week, Thursday, for that training on the 21st. Thank you all, and we'll talk to you soon.